What's up, guys? It is Chris from Blue Collar Marketing. Welcome to another episode of Tech in 30. Super pumped up to introduce you guys to a personal friend of mine and a great software, field management software for construction companies, Sean from CorFix. Really excited to have you on, man. I get pumped up when I get to see construction software built by guys who are actually in the field. So it's super amazing to have you on, man. I would love for you just to start off by introducing yourself, man, and let's get this show rolling.
Yeah, appreciate it, Chris. So my name is Sean Watts. I'm founder and CEO at CorFix. We help construction companies streamline critical job site workflows, mainly like time cards and safety docs. So my background was originally in construction. I spent 10 years working as a unionized iron worker, identified a whole bunch of shit on the job that I hated to do. And oddly enough, none of it was constructing. So it was all these sort of extracurriculars, paperwork stuff. And ultimately we designed a product to be able to solve all those challenges and pain points on a construction site.
Let's go, man. Yeah, super pumped up to kind of dive into the software here today, man. Like, I think an awesome way just to start it off, man, like just talk about your background a little bit, man. So you were actually working in construction, man. Like, what were some of these things that, you saw that you liked, that you didn't like? But even before that, man, just tell me a little about yourself in terms of like your background in construction.
Yeah, for sure. So, let's talk about how I got there. So I wasn't, I read an article the other day. It was great. And it talked about the best entrepreneurs are actually C students, right? And the A and the B students actually work for the C students, right? And that was me, right? Like I wasn't super good in school, not because I didn't understand, because it wasn't overly stimulating to me. People were trying to finish up their tests and I'm looking outside at like everything that's outside, right? And everything that I can do out there. So ultimately, pursuing an education after high school obviously limited some of my options, right? So I went into sales right off the bat. I worked as an SDR for a large software company, made 100 cold calls a day in a room full of people making 100 calls a day. And, I worked there for about a year. I wore a fancy shirt to work every day, but like I made no money, man. Like I was just grinding every single day. And it was just like, it was almost like pretend like I was this sales guy and I was doing so well. And I had a buddy say, "Hey, do you want to work construction? I'll pay you $50 an hour." Right. And I was a 20-year-old kid and I was like, $50 an hour, right? That's enough for me to golf, drink beer after work,
There we go.
do everything I need to do. So I didn't even ask him what are we doing? Right. I remember I showed up to this job site as a young apprentice for a steel company. So I started working as a unionized rebar guy. And it was great because I showed up on this job site. I knew nothing, in a unionized environment. I had all these like kind of predetermined raises based off of hours worked. And it was great, right? When you're starting at the bottom rung. But over the course of 10 years, I had, very, very quickly over those first couple years, I had hit the ceiling, like I had maxed out, right? And I had kind of hit
Right.
those steps and I hit them faster than most. And then I was in a position where I'm working beside a guy who gets paid the same amount as me and who works like 5 times less hard than me, right? So I was just like, like this is starting to drive me nuts, started to wear on me. And I started to really kind of feel like public companies was like where I needed to be because, I have a lot of pride in what I do and I consider myself to be an overachiever and I want to get paid for the overachievement, right? So I think ultimately sort of private attracted me in that sense. And then, when I started this company, it was really almost like a hobby, right? It was such a pain in the ass, all the shit that I was doing on these job sites from a
For
paperwork
sure.
standpoint, that I tried to just create, a solution that would help me in my job. And like not even thinking about like everybody that I could sell it to. I was just trying to create something that would help me get rid of the shit that I didn't like to do during the day. And, in the process of building that and, working with people to build this solution, I got very, very curious, obviously, about the market. And I started to inquire with the companies I was working with and the companies we were, working alongside and really got to see that there wasn't a solution for this in place. And
Mhm.
these big companies, doing hundreds of millions of revenue every day have a lot of holes in their operation when it comes to the field. So we really, really, tried to use that lens, build something for the construction worker. I say it all the time, I am the customer. I still am the customer. So we really sort of try to build something for the end user who's a field worker, who has an aversion to technology, who's not super hyped about using apps at work, right? So
Big time.
we had to kind of reverse engineer this and build it for them so that the office could get all those values back.
Awesome, man. Yeah, big time. I find like the best softwares come from, again, from people who have actually like done it in the field. And very similar to your story, man, like it almost comes of like I'm building something for myself, not necessarily to sell to other people just yet. I'm just trying to solve problems within like my own business, man. So as you're working through your position in the rebar, man, like what were some of these like initial things that you're like, I can improve this through tech, or I can improve this through a software? Like what were those first kind of ideas or things that you started implementing into, what is CorFix today?
Yeah. So for sure, it was paperwork, right? Like at the end of the day, I felt like I was in construction because
Mhm.
I hated writing. Like it wasn't like we
Big
weren't
time.
paperwork guys, right? So, I preferred to work hard and, and be outside. And I think so that's what kind of drove me to construction. And, the people I met in this industry are special, right? Like they're like incredibly tenacious, hard workers who, are experts in their space. But what they're not experts at is like all this paperwork crap. So, I started to see a trend where, in the early days, I would get a pat on the back because my budget numbers were good. My budget numbers continued to stay good, but I started to get like, I stopped receiving those pats on the back, and it was more like, Sean, your paperwork shit, right? And I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
paperwork, right? And then, we'd fill out these forms at the beginning of the day, and I drop them off at the general contractor's office, and then I'd climb 30 stories and we'd be working upstairs, and they'd call me and they'd bring me back downstairs to fix, signatures
Paperwork.
on a paper. And, I was just
Yeah,
like, this is crazy. Like what other vertical, what other industry does things like this? Right.
absolutely.
And, when we really kind of dived into it, we realized that like, construction, agriculture, farming, like really like they're laggards. They're the only ones that are still managing this. And it's interesting, right? Because these construction companies spend unlimited millions and millions and millions of dollars on the state of the art equipment to do their jobs,
For sure.
right? But they weren't spending any money, investing any money into these processes that are allowing them to compete in their markets. So, that's really what we want to help them with. We want to help them kind of put all those extracurriculars on autopilot so they
Yeah.
can continue to focus on building what they're good at, and they don't have to worry about all this compliance stuff.
Let's go, man. And like it's tough, I find, like not necessarily tough, but people don't realize like the amount of time, and time equals money when it comes to dealing with all these like paperwork issues, man. I feel like especially for even like some of the budding construction companies that we work with, man, like the time that people are fucking around with on Excel sheets, on just pieces of paper that have such like a laggard system, man, like this is just as important as you dumping in 100K into a brand new like excavator, man. Like you fix this is only going to do even that much more for your business, man. So that's sweet on that side, man. Like seeing like the paperwork side, and like what do we really talk about? Like I'm up 30 feet, as you said, up in a building. Now I'm getting brought down again to talk about signatures. Like what are we
Yeah,
really doing here? So as
for
you're
sure.
kind of going through this ideation, man, like you're finding a solution now with the paperwork. I'm really interested in like the journey of kind of building the core fix portion, man. Like you found a solution for the paperwork. When did you start realizing like, oh shit, man, like I think I have something that's like a good idea here that might be beneficial not only to myself but to like other companies, man. Like what was that kind of like transitioning to being like, I have something that's actually valuable here from like a tech standpoint?
Yeah, so it takes a little bit of a while, right?
Hmm.
Because, that first little bit, and Chris, you can attest to this with a different business, but that first, call it year, it's just people telling you every reason why it won't work,
For
right?
sure. 100%.
And how this is going to be so difficult and you're crazy. So like, those thoughts creep in your mind, and there's always, you have to be smart enough to realize that, this is going to be difficult, and there is, will this really work, right? But I mean, ultimately, I just put one foot in front of the other every day and continued to work on what I kind of felt was a hobby, right? And then, once we, early days were, our first kind of 5, 10 customers, we weren't making any money off them. We were just like almost like a, please just use this software so we can learn, right? And then,
Big time.
when that first, I'll never forget when I got that first check in the mail, and it was like for $7,000. So it was a small company that was, paying us for an annual service. And I remember opening this envelope and being like, holy shit, like
Yeah.
like somebody's paying me for this, right?
Let's go.
And then I think, that other sort of like big milestone, I guess, you know, the company that I idolize, look up to the most, right? That I worked alongside with in my journey as an iron worker. They were the biggest, baddest company on the block. Shout out to Belli Brothers, Belli Alliance. And, this company kind of, spared no expense. They had the biggest, nicest trucks. They had all the nice equipment. They ran the biggest, most profitable jobs. They were the 10,000-pound gorilla in the space. And,
For sure.
even though they were entirely on pen and paper and had the same problem as these small companies, but magnified, it's a doubt. It's right. Is the biggest, baddest company on the block, going to give the little guy a chance, right? We're competing at the same time. They're getting calls from Autodesk, from Procore, bigger established players. They gave us an opportunity, right? And that was like a full circle moment for me, right? To be on the job site and to think about, if I could ever create a product and sell it to this company, that would be, the big, hairy, audacious goal, right? And to go
Let's
back
go.
and be able to do that and, 4 or 5 years later, continuously provide a ton of value to that contractor, was amazing. So, at that point, I kind of felt like, holy shit, like if we can do this for them, we can do this for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
And that's when the momentum started flowing. That's when we really started hiring more people and really getting sort of serious about our go-to-market.
Let's go, man. No, 100%. I think that, yeah, as you said, man, big full circle moment, man. Being able to kind of now work with someone that you idolize and really compared yourself to, man, would have been an awesome feeling there, man. And like even going off that, man, like that first initial parts of the development and working with this company now, like what were some of the things that I guess like you learned not only as like a business owner, but for the software itself in terms of like, okay, these are now features that we need to implement, or, maybe this wasn't as important as I thought it was. Like what were some of those like big learning things or milestones that you've had while kind of working with this first batch of almost like test users?
Yeah. So I think, for us, it became like luckily for me, I am the customer, right?
Exactly.
And when we built the product, I was heavily involved on the product side to, design this from my lens, right? It's like, I'm the one that people like me need to use this product every day. So it needs to work for people like me, right? Versus the engineer who's building our product, right? So, early days, I really kind of drove the innovation of the product. And then inevitably, right, we start to get customers who are giving us their feedback and telling us, this works really well. Have you tried this? And then, inevitably we, for a period, we went down this path of like, we're just kind of indiscriminately building what our customers want. And then it's just like, ooh, like, that's kind of getting away from like our core offering. And we no longer have the space to innovate because we're
Man,
constantly, catching up and constantly trying to, do these one-offs for specific customers. So we started to, and as crazy as that sounds, as crazy as this sounds, it's like, the customer doesn't necessarily know what they want either. And they think they know what they want, but you build them exactly what they ask for. And they're like, no, that's not going to work. Right.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
so when you do things like that, you waste a whole bunch of time, a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of effort, and it's taxing. So we have a kind of a different process right now where, we specifically kind of like bucket the engineers' time so that they're, working on customer requests, but also working on innovation that's coming from within.
Let's go, man. Sweet, man. And like off of that, man, like the one thing I really liked when we went down to Vegas for the World of Concrete there, man,
Yes,
the
sir.
biggest thing I love to see about software companies, man, is that when you look around, you see people who look like you or at least come from the same space as you, man. And that was one thing that really impressed me about CorFix, man, is like you just had a bunch of lads around. We were having a great time in Vegas, man. We were getting shit done. You're making
Yeah.
some business happen, man. When it comes to being and you being a funded company, man, like I feel like the importance of growing a team that doesn't fall off, as you said, fall off from like that core mission, man. Can you tell me a process, like just about that journey of just making sure that you guys have the right people from a sales side, from a development side? Like, how did you make sure that that was all aligned? Because that was one thing, man, that I really, really liked when I went down to see you guys, man, is like you have people who have done this before. You have people that can talk in terms of like the customer's viewpoint who have actually picked up a tool, man. So, how is that process going in terms of hiring and making sure that you have the right guys around you?
Yeah. So, I think if I'm great at one thing, it's building teams,
Let's go.
right? And I quickly realized in construction that I can't do anything alone, right? And assembled a pretty badass crew as a construction company, right? And I attracted top level talent who walk off a cliff for me, right? And because of that, we ran all our jobs under budget. We were well liked by all the other trades that we worked with. Like we just got shit done. We were productive, right? And yes, I had a hand in that and organizing it, but that was largely in part of the people I had on the front line that were doing the work for me, right? So, I look at where I am today and I just took all of those learnings and those concepts and those values and brought them into this company, right? And, we have amazing people here and, very diverse kind of backgrounds, experiences, which makes us, which makes our people our superpower, right? So
Absolutely.
early days, the first couple people I hired were people that had worked for me in construction previously, right?
Absolutely.
And why? It's because like the things I value are work ethic, tenacity, grit, right? Where are you going to find that? Right. And it's just like, I have these people that have worked for me for 3, 4 years straight on a construction site, show up a half hour early, leave whenever the hell I say they can leave, bled for me, sweat for me, worked in the rain, never fucking complained.
There we go.
Those are the types of people I'm looking for, right? And we, went back and I handpicked some of those people that had worked with me and knew it would be easy to teach them how to use a CRM, right? Versus going out and finding some like SaaS sales guy who doesn't understand our customer and our problems, right? So we initially started to build up the company like that, had a lot of success, but then inevitably you need to diversify that as well, right? Like we can't have 40 construction workers running a tech company, right? So then, we started to layer on some experienced finance personnel, right? Some experienced go-to-market leaders and that weren't from construction, that were more from the software space. So, what we have now, again, is a diverse team of hardworking individuals with all of the required relevant experiences to help us become a high growth SaaS company.
Let's go, man. No, 100%. That was very telling, man, when we went to Vegas too, man, just in terms of like the experience that these guys had. And I think the biggest thing, you said this to it earlier too, like first couple years of growing something like this, man, it takes a lot of grit, man. And you got to have the right people on the team to kind of get through those tough slugging, man, because you're figuring out what's working, what's not working, how to make money in the SaaS game, man. So no, I think that's one of the key parts. And it's great that that's like a core skill set for you, man. It's just building great team, and it's easy too when you have like great guys around you, man. So that's money on that side, man.
For sure. And I think, Chris, I think similar to you, like I started this company with a good friend of mine, right?
Yeah, big time.
And I don't know how entrepreneurs do this, right? Because like this is hard shit, right?
100%.
And
Big time.
and I think, my co-founder, Jeff, when I look back at it, we never both had a bad day on the same day,
Let's
right?
go.
And when I'm having a real bad day and I feel like shit and things are really, really bad, even they are with him too, I can tell like he's just like, okay, I gotta pick Sean up here and vice versa, right? So I think that was instrumental in this journey as well. Like good partner, somebody that you can rely on, that like, plays, that complements you well and doesn't necessarily it's not competitive with you, but complements you.
100%.
And I think I wouldn't want to do it alone. Let's put it that way.
Absolute, man. And like shout out Jeff, first of all, man, for being a beauty there. And like I think that's the real thing, man, is like, yeah, finding someone that complements you, doesn't necessarily compete with you, but drives you to be better, like you want to make sure that you're showing up your best every single day, not only for your company, but for the guy beside you or the girl beside you that you've started the company with. You know what I mean? Like that's, I think it's, speaking from experience too with my own thing, man, like Wes and I, man, like that's a big reason why I think where we're at today is because just as you said, man, it's just being able to play off of each other's strengths. And then when one guy has a bad day, that's when you step up and you get on the plate there. So no,
Yep.
100%, man, like the importance of the team side thing, I think is what really drives good companies like this.
For sure, for sure. It's yeah. I mean, whether it's software or other products, like people buy from people, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
And I still believe that to be true in this super fast paced world. I still, and especially in my world, in construction, people buy from people. So if you want to put out a good product and deliver a big service, You have to have great people under the covers.
Absolute, man. No, 100%, man. Now let's shift now right to CorFix, man. Like as a software, what makes CorFix so great here, man? So when we look at some of the features and functionality, man, like what would you say is like some of the top features that you find people are using and like making a very big difference in like their actual business, man? Like I see from the your website and from what I've seen from the software, man, you guys do asset management, certification management, forms. There's a big emphasis on the safety, dashboards, reports, projects. This software does a whole bunch, and I think it does it in a great way, as you said, in terms of having ease of use and simplicity, man. So, what are some of these key features that you find people are using and getting a great ROI or benefit from?
Yeah, so at the heart of it, subcontractors, steel toe wearing construction worker is underserved, right? There aren't a lot of products built for them to help them do those extracurriculars outside of their jobs. There are the big products for the project managers, the ERPs and the owners, and they don't get a lot of adoption at field level because the features aren't built for the field workers, right? Our core competencies are around the field workers. Our core competencies are, safety and time tracking,
Mhm.
right? So, there's a lot of different features that play into those things, but at the heart of it, every worker goes into the job site every day and needs to, track their time and needs to fill out the necessary safety forms. So we make that process super, super simple from the beginning. And there's a lot of synergies between those two features. So, we talk to companies who are using, a document software as well as a time tracking software. Well, those softwares don't talk to each other, right? And that's a huge missed opportunity. So, quick example for you in our software, a worker cannot punch out of their shift without completing the required safety form. So companies that struggle to get adoption on the form side are able to reinforce that behavior with one that's tied to their paychecks, right? So, at the core, that's what we do very, very well. We help the worker manage their safety and their time from remote locations.
Let's go, man. No, 100%. I think you nailed it on the head there too, man. Like, especially with a lot of the other softwares I see, man, like the biggest thing that I think is important for a software to have is like that theory or that thing of adoption. Like you can build a million different tools, a million different things into a software, but if you don't know what it works like on the ground level, like are people actually going to fucking use this tool? Like
Yeah.
that's a big deal, man. Like there's so many softwares I see, I'm like, man, I cannot picture someone wasting their time doing this. The fact that you have it, for example, like the safety forms, knowing that guys are going to be dicking around a little bit and trying not to fill that out, and you have that as a mandatory requirement, like that's like a ground level play, man. Like, is there any other instances where you have that, I guess, baked into your functionality or examples in mind with like stuff like that? Because I find that's one of the biggest, I think, keys I find for softwares to be successful is like really thinking about how is this going to be adopted by the workers, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the other components to that are, we really look at it as, an end-to-end solution for the worker. So, worker shows up on the job site, or let's take that back. So, we look at this as an end-to-end solution for the worker. The first part of that being scheduling. So, they receive their schedule. What job do they show up on? What supervisor are they working with? What certifications do they need and so forth? From there, they show up to the job and they'll punch into their job or fill out, their hours, fill out their safety form. After that, punch out. And we're actually have just released a payroll module. So when we look at the end to end, right, that worker goes in, from the same app, understands where they're working, can show up to the job site without having to make a whole bunch of phone calls to find out where they're working,
Let's go.
can start tracking their own time that reports right back to the company and integrates with their accounting systems, can punch out and can even receive their checks directly from CorFix payroll. So, that is that is.
Absolutely. Let's go, man. Then when you have something that has, a lot of moving parts, man, like one thing I really liked from even just chatting with you guys and like working with you guys for a while now, and then also just looking at your website, it's cool to see the badge there in terms of like, best customer support of 2024. I think that's super important when it comes to like softwares, man. Like, how do you guys differentiate yourselves in terms of that, man? Like, I feel like customer support when it comes to making sure that people are using this the right way is a super important thing, man. Like, what is like the emphasis on core fix and customer support and how it kind of helps the end client there?
So this is such a good question. So, we see ourselves as so much more than a software company, right? Like we're a service provider, and part of that service is being an extension of that construction team, right? And really helping them, solution problems in the field and ultimately ensure our adoption. Right. So we really look at it as like a white glove process. So upfront, we spend an enormous amount of time with their team. So our onboarding specialist and customer success manager really get to, meet the company, understand their specific requirements. What are they feeling with pain, and develop a sort of a rollout plan that's tied to specific actionable goals and results, right? We are then able to meet with those clients again, do, quarterly business reviews to make sure that we're still on pace with those clients. So our choice is, to have you deal with real people, right? None of this like, hey, I have a problem, I'm going to send an email to support and get an answer 3 days later. That doesn't fucking work. Your
Absolutely.
worker's already pissed, gone, and doesn't want to use your software because they think it doesn't work, right? So in our world, you have an issue that frankly is usually between the chair and the keyboard. But nonetheless, you pick up the phone and you're able to talk to somebody who understands your account, who's dedicated to you, who understands your issues and is able to put you guys back on track. So, we find that if we become an extension of that team in that critical phase, that kind of first 30 to 45 days, then this system is designed to more or less run on autopilot. And then the customer's really customer or the client is sort of off to the races and getting all of those results that they
Let's
need.
go.
So again, we choose to invest a lot up front, knowing that if we, wrap ourselves around that client and can deliver immediate value, then they'll likely be with us for a long time.
Let's go, man. That's I love to hear that, man. It has to come full circle, man. It's like you build a great product, you onboard them properly, and then you manage them throughout the life cycle, man, with like the checkpoints there. So that's the key, man. You want to make sure that people who are using your stuff are having success with it, right? So it sounds like you guys are definitely rolling that way, which is awesome, man. So as we kind of wrap up to the end of this, man, we're getting close to 30 minutes, man. I'm a construction owner, like a construction company owner, a GC, whatever. How do I get in contact with you guys? We'll have details obviously at the end of this video, but what's the best way to actually get started and actually try CorFix here, Sean?
Yeah. So if you could just head to our website, there's, quite a few different buttons you could click to, get more information or book a call. But yeah, please book a discovery call. We aim to disqualify, right? Like when we do these discovery calls, we want to make sure you're a perfect fit for us, right? So we do a full discovery. It's not enough for us to sell you something. We need to make sure you're going to use it. And if you're not a great fit for us, no matter what we do up front, you're not going to use the product, even if you paid us for it, right? So, jump on a discovery call, let's, figure out what your business requirements are. Let's make sure we're a good fit for you guys, and we'll set up a mutual action plan and move towards some sort of onboarding and deployment.
Let's go, man. Beauty, man. Well, appreciate you having on, man. This is a great episode here. Always great to chat with you, man. For everyone watching, you heard it for Sean here. Head over to corfix.com. If you guys are looking for a stand-up team, stand-up guy, and like a software that I can actually stand behind too as well, I think CorFix is a fantastic option as like a field management software for you guys. So head on over to
Thank you.
corfix.com. Check out the description here in the video, and we'll have all the details to reach out to Sean and the team there. And again, man, thank you so much for coming by, and thank you everyone for watching another episode of Tech in 30. We will check you on the next one.
Appreciate you, Chris. Thanks, bud.
100%, brother.